Okay, welcome back to the podcast for champions with David Peavy. I've got a special guest today. Not only is he a legend, a great coach, I consider him to be a very good friend of mine and a mentor. Um, we built a relationship over the last few years, and actually the first time I ever met him was when we played against each other in the regional tournament. I guess it was probably 7 years ago. Yeah,
2017.
Okay, so about 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. Um, really good friend of mine, Alan Branch, told me that Judge was a great person, would do anything for me, would answer my calls and answer any questions, and to call him, and I'm like, Branch, what are you talking about? I'm getting ready to play this man. Well, I'm gonna call him and do what? And he said, man, nah, I mean, call him. He'll tell you this and he'll tell you that. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So get to the game, and our teams are warming up, and I usually go introduce myself and sit with the coach and chit chat. And man, this dude is giving me all types of information, talking about his team. And I just knew right then and there, this man is probably going to be a friend of mine and a mentor. And I was not wrong. Happy to have as a guest on the podcast tonight, Paul Graham. Paul Graham has had a 50-year, and it's still going. It's still going. I just remembered that it's still going. I'm going to let you tell us about yourself a little bit, and just get going, and then Judge, we're gonna have a conversation.
Well, Dave, first let me just say it's an honor and pleasure to be sitting in your presence. I mean, that's no joke, man. You are one of my closest friends. We developed that over the last few years, but got a lot of respect for you. I like the way your teams play, but I just like you as a man, as a person. And,
appreciate that.
We've had talks going back and forth, and we did meet that night in the regionals. Yeah. And I had a good team, and you had a good team. Else we wouldn't have been
I don't
there.
remember who won. I don't even remember.
I don't remember who won. I'm too old to remember back then.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I was fortunate enough that night to come out on top. But
Right.
I don't know if you knew this or not, but I also interviewed for the Duncanville job.
I did.
Did you know that?
I actually, I was sitting in the parking lot
When I walked out.
You walked out, and I was walking in after you.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly right.
I had a little, my heart dropped when I saw you walk out.
Well,
so.
mine like to jumped out when I saw you sitting in the car.
Yeah.
But it all worked out.
Right.
And you got even with me when we was in the same district and we played, and
Right.
But still we've developed a great friendship.
Right.
And I appreciate you for having me on your show.
Well, I appreciate you coming. Now tell us about yourself now. Come on.
Well, let me say I'm 72 years old. I've been married to the same woman for 45 years. I have a daughter,
Bless
as you
her
know.
heart. Bless her heart.
And I have a son. Grew up in Kansas City. And I'm not a Cowboy fan. I'm a Chiefs fan.
Okay.
Grew up in Kansas City. Graduated from high school in 1969. And I went to an all-black high school. And the thing about my high school, it was noted for basketball. It was the Duncanville of Kansas City.
Cool.
Back down there. When I was a senior, we won state championship with 26-0 in basketball. But the unique thing about my high school is that if you were black in Kansas City at that particular time, that's where you went to school.
Okay.
And you could go, when we went to high school there, the teachers, they knew who your mama was, your daddy was, and they would tell you, I know who your real daddy is, boy. I mean, they just knew all about you because everybody went to that high school. And our high school was known for basketball. I was a two-sport athlete. I was state championship not only in basketball but also in track. I was a sprinter hurdler and set records in the hurdles and sprints. And I went to junior college for 2 years. I was not a great student in high school, and back then, if you went to junior college, all you had to do was have 48 transferable hours with a C average.
Okay.
And so I went to junior college, and then when I left junior college, I played basketball, ran track, but I got a track scholarship to North Texas State, which is the University of North Texas. Could have played basketball, should have played basketball. I was better than most of the players on the team, but the coach at North Texas at the time was a guy named Gene Robbins. Mm-hmm. Gene Robbins was an assistant at Kansas State for Cotton Fitzsimmons.
Okay.
And they were recruiting. We had a 6'9" center named Leonard Gray who passed away, ended up playing in the pros, and he went to the University of Kansas for a couple of years. But anyway, they were recruiting him. And Gene Robbins, the assistant coach for Cotton, came to me and said, listen, if you delivered Leonard, we'll take you with us. And I told him, don't worry about it. Well, Leonard went to the University of Kansas. And when I get to North Texas, there's Gene Robbins down there. And the first thing he says to me, Dave, was, I remember you. And that was the end of my basketball career.
There you go.
But that was that. And so then when I graduated in 1974, when I graduated from North Texas, I got a job at Kimball High School, and that's where I started my coaching career at Kimball High School. Now, I had no desire to be a teacher or a coach. I just needed a job.
Okay.
Hayden Fry, who was the football coach at North Texas at that particular time, put his arm around me and said that, first of all, I need to move out the dorm. There was no room in the inn for me back in the projects of Kansas City. My grandmother who raised me, I was raised by my grandmother and my aunt, okay, and 3 sisters and 2 brothers. But anyway, I couldn't go back to Kansas City. So I needed a job. So he said, I'll tell you what you can do. We can get you a teaching and coaching job in Dallas. And I said, Coach, man, I had a hard time going to class. Yeah. That was crazy. But
that makes the best teachers.
Hey, but I needed a job.
Right.
And the first job I got, I was teaching and coaching at Kimball High School and made $7,000. And let me go back. Let me also say this. I met my wife, Vanessa, at North Texas State. She's from Dallas, and she went to South Oak Cliff High School.
Okay.
Matter of fact, she's Reginald Sample's cousin.
Oh, nice.
So so I started teaching and coaching, and so I wanted to coach. They needed a basketball coach. And at a particular time, I was the only black coach at Kimball at that time.
Okay.
And they had a thing at Dave here called M&M transfers, minority to majority transfers.
Okay.
So you could transfer to my school if you was a minority. So I was able to get some players to transfer from Sauk, Roosevelt, Lincoln, Pinkston, and I had really good teams. But the thing at that particular time, they only took one team to the playoffs.
I remember that.
They only took one team. And so I'm in the district with South Oak Cliff, Roosevelt, Pinkston, Carter.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a district. And I'll have a team go 28-4, and I lost 4 games. I lost twice to Sauk, twice Roosevelt. So I started teaching and coaching. But the thing that I wanted to do, Dave, was to move up in the coaching ranks. I started watching a few games on television, and college recruiters would come by, and they'd always come by in that Avis rental car and a Cadillac, have a nice sport coat on, and they would get a chair, they'd sit down, and they'd watch it. Now, I've taught 4 classes of American history. Then I got to come down and sweep the gym floor because, football is the king.
Right.
And I was the only guy there, had to do everything, and I would talk to all the college coaches, and I would say, man, you got to get me out. How can I get to where you at? And Rob Evans, who's one of my best friends, told me, he said, listen, just go out here and keep your nose clean. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep working hard and keep progressing and keep moving forward. And anything I can do to help you, I will. Well, as my teams began to get noticed in Dallas, we had really good teams, competed hard and played hard. Dave Bliss got the job at SMU. And I went to his press conference. And he said he wanted to recruit Dallas and he wanted to get to know Dallas. And then Alex Gillum, Coach Gillum, who's passed away, used to be the coach at Carter, just stood up in the press conference and said, if you want to get in Dallas, you need to hire Paul Graham right here. And a year later, I had a player named Reginald Pink who played at SMU, was a really good player, and Dave hired me.
Okay.
And I went to, in 1982, I went to SMU as an assistant. And, boy, we had some really good teams at SMU. At one time, we were ranked #1 in the country. And one of the biggest games, I've coached against two of the best basketball teams ever. Georgetown had Patrick Ewing.
Right.
And Houston had Olajuwon Drexler and all those bunch.
Pretty good.
They were pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
And so I was at SMU, Dave, for 8-9 years. And when the first player I signed as a college coach was Larry Johnson. And he came and he signed under another set of rules that we had. Well, when the football scandal hit, SMU changed the admission requirements. And so they said, well, you know, he could come to SMU,
Right.
but he can't play. He just, you know, but we said, no, he signed a contract under these rules. If he'd had these rules beforehand, we never would have got him anyway.
Right.
And then Dave told the president, said, well, Larry's only going to be in school for about a year.
Right.
And he can help us. If we'd have got Larry, then we'd have got Jimmy King and Mario Bennett and those other players. But that didn't work out because we were making a good run on the Dallas players. We had Carl Wright, we had Johnny Fuller, Reginald Pink. We were getting all the players out of Dallas that we possibly could, and we was making a run at it. Well, Dave left in 80. After we won the Southwest Conference in 88, I think he left, and he went to the University of New Mexico.
Okay.
I didn't go because my wife was not going to move to Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Right.
She said, that's no way. So if you believe this, I can't swim, but I got a job at Samuel High School as a swim coach. I had to eat, man.
So they didn't care about their kids at Samuel.
Hey, well, back then, you know, John Kincaid, who just passed away, was athletic director.
Right.
Rabbit Thomas, who was really big. And back then, those guys would just say, Judge, you need a job, we got you. This is all we got.
Right.
And they'd call over there and say, you the swim coach. And so I was there a year. And then the following year, I left, and I went to the University of New Mexico with Dave.
Okay.
And we had good teams. We had Luke Longley,
Yeah.
had two good teams, when we were only there for 2 years. And after that, after 2 years, I left and went to probably the best college job that I had. I was at Oklahoma State with Eddie Sutton for 9 years.
Yeah.
And every year, how many? 7 years, 8 years, you know. But we were there, and we were good.
Right.
And
I remember those teams.
Yeah, we were good. And
Big country.
you had the big fella.
Yeah.
And went to the Final Four in '95.
Okay.
And that was you know, to go to the Final Four, we had to beat Drexel first round. They had a guy named Malik Rose.
Yep.
We had Bryant Reeves. Next night it got easy. We played Alabama. They had a guy named Antonio McDyess. We had Bryant Reeves.
Right. Right.
Next night we played some team from Wake Forest.
Yeah.
They had somebody named Tim Duncan.
Duncan.
And
Easy
I
pass.
always remember the last media timeout in that game. We were down 6 points. Coach calls the media timeout, comes to the sideline, and Coach Sutton was great because he's a Hall of Famer. He never got excited. So he looks at me and says, what are we going to do? And Country puts his arm around. He's full of sweat. He weighs 900 pounds. He leans on me and says, Coach, bring it to me. Tim Duncan can't cover me. 3 times we ran that cross screen, down screen. 3 times he scored. We beat him.
Right.
Next night it got easy. We got UConn, and they got somebody named Tim Duncan and Lou Rowe. Big fella went to work. And we went to the Final Four, and we lost to UCLA in the semis. But we had a great year there. Good team.
Really good team.
Good team.
Yeah, really good team.
Well, we got to going, and it was my desire at that particular time to be a Division I head coach.
Right.
And, man, I had to interview for jobs. I didn't get jobs, Dave, because I was black.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
So, how many Division I head coaches were there that were black at that time?
Not many.
Not very many.
Not many.
Was Nolan was the coach?
Nolan, George Raveling,
And
John Chaney,
Thompson.
John Chaney, John Thompson.
John Thompson.
Tubby Smith, I think he might have been coming here. Tubby. But you can name them on your hand.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing that helped us as black coaches is that the influx of black players, and everybody wanted a black assistant because we had to have the black players to win. Let's be honest.
Right.
So we knew as black coaches going in, our job was to go out and recruit athletes, players, because the game started changing to athlete. You know, back in the day, older teams, they would slow down, walk it down, and things like that. Kind of like I used to play a Skyline, right?
We're going to get to that, Coach. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
Yeah. I thought you forgot.
No, we're going to get to that, Coach.
But so anyway, so when you know, we got there and I got a chance. I interviewed for jobs. 4 times I interviewed for the job in North Texas.
Yeah.
Never got it. Interviewed at Wichita State, TCU, you name it, I interviewed. And I never got a job. So the job that I got as a Division I head coach, I never interviewed for it. Coach Sutton comes in because all his guys got jobs, you know.
Right.
Bill Self got a job, Rob Evans got a job, Gene Cady got a job, Pat Foster got a job.
Yeah.
If you work for Eddie Sutton, Dean Smith, or Bob Knight, you got a job. Now you got search firms to get you a job.
Right,
but if those guys, but anyway, I go to work one morning with Stillwater, and he comes in and says, you need to catch this flight. Here's the thing. You got to meet the athletic director of Washington State in Phoenix. I said, Coach, for what? He said, well, you've been to Pullman before. I said, I have, because we played in the NCAA tournament at SMU in Pullman, Washington, when Georgetown beat us 37-36. And I said, yeah, I've been there. That's kind of at the middle of nowhere. Well, he wants to talk to you about the head coaching job. I said, Coach, Pullman, man, I'm from Kansas City. I'm from the Midwest. Guy ain't going to hire me. I ain't getting no job.
Right.
But I'll go out there, man.
Yeah.
It's going out there is good experience. So I fly to Phoenix, Dave, and get to Phoenix. I get into Phoenix Airport, and at that particular time, it was a regional game in Phoenix. And the guy who was coaching at Gonzaga at that time, he's at Long Beach. I can't think of his name. He was out there, but it's on all the papers that he's going to get the job at Washington State, because Gonzaga's in Spokane. So he comes down there, he talks to me, and we talk. So I get on the plane, fly back to Stillwater. And that night I got home, and I think Britt and my wife were in Dallas, and only my son Nick was there. So I come in the house, and when I come in the house, the phone rings. And it's the athletic director from Washington State University. He says, Coach, how would you like to be coaching the Pac-10? I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, I had a good talk with you, and I've talked to some other people about you, and it's your job and you want it. I said, don't BS me, man. Yeah. I told him that that ain't what. Because now I've been set down, and that's how I got the job at. Never interviewed for it. Never thought about it, and that's how I got that job.
That's crazy. That's a
it
great
went on.
story.
Yeah, it went on, man. And
so what was that like? Being one of the only black head coaches at that time. How were you treated in the Pac-10 back then?
What helped me a lot was that I worked for Eddie Sutton. So everybody knew, hey, man, this dude can coach.
Right.
If he with Eddie,
right,
he can coach, because all his guys got jobs and did pretty well. But they treated me really good. Lute Olson was a good friend of mine. Mike Montgomery was in the league. It's a good coach. Ernie Kent was in the league.
It was a really good league at the time, for sure.
Lute, man, he had Richard Jefferson, Gilbert Arenas, Michael Wright, Lauren Woods. He had those kind of guys, You go to UCLA when Jim Herrick and Steve Lavin was there, and they had that bunch. And Henry Bibby was at USC. He had Scalabrini and those guys. And so it was a tough league.
Right.
And so I was there 4 years, and I lost my president and lost my AD, got fired.
Right.
And they hired the guy who now at Virginia.
Okay.
They hired him and his dad.
Yeah.
But they were good. They said when I got the job, Dave, at Washington State, it was in the
tough
dumps.
job.
Yeah, it's
tough job.
It's tough anyway.
Right.
But it was tough, and we kind of got it going a little bit, and then they came in. Then when I left there, I went to University of Colorado with Ricardo, and we were there 4 years. My daughter graduated from high school there. And my son played for me at Washington State. Nick played for me.
Okay.
And then when we got let go at Colorado, I went to Georgia State down in Atlanta with Rod Barnes. When he got fired, they named me interim head coach and led me to believe I was going to get the job. Didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
My wife said, I'm not moving anymore. I've been too many places. And so she said, we're going home. So I came back to Dallas, and I came to Skyline.
Okay.
And,
so that's when you came to Skyline.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's move back. One, you said Nick played for you.
Yes.
At
Washington State.
Let's talk about that. How hard was that coaching your son at a Division I?
It was hard day for me because of my personality. And what I tried to do, I was probably too hard on him as a coach and less as a father.
Right.
If I'm saying that right.
No,
you know.
I know exactly what you're saying.
You know, and because of my environment and the way I was raised, you know I am. I'm really demanding, tough, hard-nosed, because that's how I was. See, I didn't have a father growing up. It was the hustlers and stuff and people,
Right.
And a lot of the guys that, and I learned how to be how I was in the park.
Right.
We didn't have AAU teams. We didn't have workout coaches. I had a job ever since I was 12. I mean, a job where I had to take care of myself. We was poor, didn't have much, so I was tough. So it was hard coaching him, just because I was hard on him.
Right.
And I should have been more of a father than his coach.
Yep.
And because I kept saying, well, he's like me. He'll figure it out. He's tough enough. Because, everybody told me I wasn't going to amount to much. And
Right.
everybody told me I wasn't worth 2 cents. And these statements, to me, came from people who supposed to love me.
Right.
And told me I wasn't worth a quarter,
Right.
So I said, okay, you say I ain't. We'll see.
Right.
We'll see. You say I can't do so. Okay, we'll see. And so that was tough. And so he had we was playing Stanford, I think. Stanford's the number one team in the country. Mike Montgomery had team, and Nick Boy was shooting that ball like Seth Curry. Mm-hmm. So I'm over there to the coach. I got locked in. I said, shoot it, Nick. That's what I'm saying to myself.
Yeah.
Good shot, Nick. Good shot. And then when he would screw up, I would take him out, and my wife would sit behind the bench and be mad at me when I took him out. I'm not, what you take him out for?
Right.
His sister would be mad at me, tell him to shoot when I told him not to shoot.
Yeah.
But it was hard.
I asked that
it
because
was hard.
I know. It's people ask me all the time, what was it like coaching your sons? The hardest thing in the world.
Yeah,
it's
hard.
As a coach,
yes,
it is. The hardest thing to do, but the most rewarding.
Yes.
It was the most rewarding. This is what I say, and I talk to parents. When you go to a game, you see everything your son does. Everything. As a coach, you see everything. You try to see as much as you can with the 10 people on the court. But when your son is out there, you see everything he does. So as a coach, when you see a player do something wrong, you usually coach him up. You say something.
Right.
Well, you saw everything your kid did wrong because you see everything he does. And as a coach, you always feel like, well, if I don't say something to him, people are going to think that I'm showing favoritism
because
to my
he's your son.
Because he's your son. So I had an assistant. Actually, Kevin Woods was my assistant in Houston when I first started coaching DJ, my oldest son. And he was really good. He was a really good player growing up. He had been the number one point guard in Texas for his age group. Then he was a starting point guard at Steele High School in San Antonio. And then I was an AD at the time in Austin. I had given up coaching for that last year. I was an AD for 5 years. That last year, I wasn't coaching because I knew he wasn't coming to Austin to play for me. So I didn't want to miss any of his games. After his freshman year, he asked me to coach him. He's like, Dad, I want to come play for you. Well, I had already given up my basketball position. I just hired somebody. I wasn't going to take that back from him. So I went and got a job in Houston. Well, in the meantime, from his last freshman game to playing in AAU, he was diagnosed with a heart condition. So he had to sit out for 6 months. So by the time he came back as a sophomore, he was out of shape, he was slower, but he was still good. And with me coaching him and seeing every mistake and everything he did, I stayed on him, and he was in a new school with kids that didn't know him. Well, Woods had to pull me to the side and say, hey, man, let me coach him. You leave him alone, because everybody in this gym thinks that DJ can't play. Right. All they hear is DJ, DJ. So you making him you sounding like he's sorry. When the kid can play, leave him alone. But I was real hard. Real hard. But by the time I coached Micah, I had gotten a little bit better. And then DJ was there to protect him.
Right.
So he kind of pulled me to the side a couple times. And you said something that you were more coach than dad.
Right.
Well, when we came to Duncanville, I was coaching Micah, and it got to the point where I remember calling my ex-wife, and I said, we need to have a parent meeting. And she said, excuse me? Like, we need to have a parent meeting. Okay, what's going on? And I said, Mike is being disrespectful, he's doing this, and I'm getting ready to kick him off the team. And she said to me, all right, I'll come up there, but this ain't got nothing to do with basketball. So I said, nah. So I pulled him over, and I took him in the office. I said, hey, man, you going to respect me as your coach, and you going to respect me as your father. And you know my son Micah. He said, you ain't my father, you my coach. That hurt. But then I called DJ, who was now in college, and I told him, and he basically said, Dad, you haven't done anything with us as a father. Everything has always been about basketball. So right then and there, and then the guilt I felt, because I got an older daughter, and everything we ever did was always about basketball.
Always about basketball.
DJ just finished. I said, well, D, how come you never said nothing? And he was like, well, really, I didn't know any different. He said, but now I'm telling you, Micah, he needs you to be dad. So we had to start doing stuff outside of basketball. And so that's what a lot of people call me now, who are getting ready to coach their son for the first time. And that's the advice I just tell them. Just what you just said.
Yes.
You got to be dad.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because everything that we did, my family, was basketball. It was basketball.
Every trip,
when we went to the Final Four, the NCAA tournament, or I was going recruiting, I was going over here, it was basketball. Now, I was a good provider.
Right.
You know, but I wasn't a good husband or father.
Right.
Because it was just basketball. Especially before I became head coach. I had tunnel vision. I said, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm going to do, and I ain't going to let nothing stop me. Well, I deprived my family of me, you know, because when I come back off the road, well, let's go do this. Man. But I could sit up and watch film, you know, or I could sit up and recruit, you know. It was very difficult. Like I said, I was more, and even sometimes I would even talk to my family, my wife and daughter, like they were one of my players, you know. And my pastor, Freddie Haynes of Friendship West, one time he counseled me and says, Coach Graham, they don't play for you, you know, my family. And that hurt. Right. And that hurt me as a man when maybe my son doesn't feel like we're close or things like that. But I know now, as I look back, you know, I can't go back and fix it, but you try to go forward and do the best you can do. You know, and that's what this profession does to you.
No question.
It consumes you if you're going to be good.
And it's hard.
It's hard
finding that balance.
And I wish, not to cut you out there, I wish I'd have had somebody around me, assistant coach or somebody. My assistant coaches, my family tell me they was all intimidated by me, because I said, as little as I am, man, and you know, I say some things sometimes where I shouldn't say, you know, but I cared about everybody, you know, but it's very difficult.
It is.
And I tell guys like the coach, they say, how was it coaching your son? Nick will tell you right now.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't very good.
Oh, I've talked to Nick.
You know? He said it wasn't very good.
Right. I mean, but like you said, can't go back.
I can't go back
and change any of that. But let's move to when I met you. You were the coach at Skyline.
Yep.
And when I first met you, you had a really, really, really good team. Really good team. And you were real always. Even when you didn't have really good teams, I played against you.
Right.
You were always very, very difficult to coach against. Now we're going to talk about your coaching style. When every time I played you, you played a very disciplined style and brand of basketball. It was a lot slower. And you had some dudes, especially on that first team. You had Marcus Garrett. You had, was it Jace?
Jace, yeah. He could
Jace
shoot it,
could
man.
really shoot it. And you had about 6 that I can remember.
Yeah.
Good
guy, good players.
Good high school / college caliber players.
Right.
And you played a style that most people who had those players wouldn't play.
Wouldn't play, yeah.
You kept the score low. Talk to me about your philosophy on, why you played that way, and it worked.
Dave, I tell coaches when I speak at clinics and talk to young coaches and stuff, I always use it. Coach what you know and know what you coach. Coach Sutton told me, Coach Sutton could get the most out of the least. And I played defense with my offense. I had no shot clock. So for me, as long as I got the ball, you can't score.
Right.
I got the best player on the floor, Marcus Garrett.
No doubt.
So if this game is close, Marcus can get me to the house. Okay? So we're going to play a style. So people used to criticize me, you play that all the time. But we run in transition, but when you cross mid-court, I'm going to put you in a half-court game. Most high school teams, they'll play defense for 3 passes.
Right.
As you know,
Right.
We're going to take that ball from here to here to here to here. A lot of it's false motion.
Yeah.
A lot of it's false motion. Like you told me, you couldn't speed me up. You changed defenses.
And I'm going to brag. I think we did, because I watched a lot of film of your team that year because it was different.
Right.
I felt like in that game, we sped you up more than I saw anybody else speed you up. But you have Marcus Garrett that
he can control the game.
I mean, he could play at that pace. And so let me ask you this. Did you ever have games that year with that team where you let them cut loose, or was that how you all were going to play?
We're going to play that way if we got it. And Marcus was so good because he was me on the court. I mean,
right.
He knew when to and when not to. He knew Jay Townsend had the green light. He could shoot anytime he got ready because he could shoot it. And we went on run in transition, but if it ain't there, they were smart enough and took the coach and say, guys, if it's not in transition, remember our 5 principles in no specific order. 1, you can't turn the ball over. Got to cut down your turnovers. 2 and 3, you got to rebound the ball on both ends. 4, you got to play as hard as you can. And 5, you got to play great defense. Right. I didn't say nothing about offense.
Yeah.
You do those 5 things, because offense is a skill.
Yeah.
Sometimes the ball, when we went to the state, we went triple overtime, and the score was only for 46-43.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And we just missed free throws, and but we had the game won. So I would always say, hey man, this is how we're gonna play. Now sometimes we would score 70 points, 80 points. When we played Andrew Jones
I
in
didn't
those
get that
games.
film.
It said you should have got it, Judge.
I didn't get that film.
Hey
when
man,
you scored 70,
we beat Richardson and the Case and them. They were young. We beat them 25. We beat South Oak. We gave
that
South
was after that team though.
No, they were young. We played them. We was in the same district.
Case and them were
I think they
freshmen
were young when we played them.
But that was not with Marcus and them. That was after Marcus and them because Case and them were freshmen when I got to Duncanville.
Okay, well maybe they weren't there, but we played
Ramsey
them
and
because
Mike
they
this
beat
year.
in district. We were ranked number 1 in the state, and it was a snow day or Sunday. But anyway, they beat us at their place by a double overtime. When they came to Skyline, man, we ran them out of the gym.
Right.
South Oak Cliff, I tell Majors all the time, we stopped the game with about 3 minutes left to go in the game, and we was up 30 against them.
So, okay. I just have to say this because people will, back then, and even since I've been at Duncanville and we played y'all at Skyline, people criticized and talked about where you don't. I try to tell people how hard it is to get kids to play like that. You have to be really disciplined, and